Dr. Lawrence for this opportunity. I'm sure I have to congratulate Rai for a topic like this in the L&D Summit, a very, very relevant and important topic. The topic on employee well-being in a hybrid work environment, I think is very relevant, and people must be wondering, how is it that L&D is going to support this? And that is what my esteemed panelists are going to do. The panelists also has a variety. They come from the brick and mortar, from e-commerce, from hospitality. You have L&D as well as HR professionals who actually handle this. So if you look at what it is, I mean, today, there is the lines between, home and the workplace is very blurred. I think it's also impacting the overall well-being. I think people are getting stressful because of this, which I'm sure all of us will agree. And it's important how we actually take care of that as an organization. And organizations are also looking at a holistic, approach towards well-being. Well-being covering physical, mental, financial, social wellness. I think all these are getting to become, difficult during these times. I think people can call it new normal or whatever. But then that is what I think is reality. And how is it that organizations are going to look at this holistically and take care of their employees? Organizations also need to be intentional about reducing burnout. Actually, Dr. Karthik Dave in the previous session was talking about employee burnout, about empathy. I think today that's the buzzword around, because the people are kind of worried in terms of what the burnout employees are going through, and what can actually happen from work from home is what is something that I'm sure this panel is going to discuss about. And if you look at the work from home scenario, employees are losing touch with their colleagues, and that is also not very good. At the end of the day, how does team camaraderie happen? How does collaboration happen? How does things work? I mean, once I don't know when the new normal becomes normal. I know how things would be, but definitely that's going to really impact the employees, and how L&D is going to support in this is something we need to talk about. And also L&D should be looking at fostering a learning environment with a remote or hybrid employee. I think that is also very crucial. So these are some of the thoughts I thought I had, and I'm sure the panelists have the knowledge from their organizations, and they would share with us. And it's going to be a very, very interesting session, because like we see, the session should have ended by 6:30 today, will get ended at 7. That's the new normal. So it's not like, conferences usually end at 5 p.m. and today we are sitting at 7 o'clock wanting to listen to a panel. So that is what is the difference. And that is what I think we will address today. So maybe to go around, let me kind of, just quickly in a minute or two, if each of the panelists can come and let us know what is their organization doing as far as, the well-being of the employees in this hybrid work environment. What are the initiatives and what are the practices that they are, following for us? I'm sure that would be interesting. Maybe we'll start with Alex. Alex, Alex, I know him for a long time. I've seen him as a L&D, manager, grow to become now, a HR leader of a large organization. And I'm sure, Alex, maybe you can add some value as to what, Landmark Group is doing in this problem that we have.
Thank you, Venkat. A very good evening to you, the panelists, and all the participants. I would share more from what we have done in the past and some things which are work in progress. Not necessarily only from a hybrid work, because in retail, I think less than 10% of the people will have the privilege to actually have hybrid. Rest of the people are working from the frontline stores. So we realized that at the height of the pandemic, when the stores were closed, people who were a high touch, kind of frontline employees, they had nobody to speak to, right? Every day they would come to the store and they would work. They had colleagues, they had friends at the store, they had managers, they had customers to interact with. But when the stores were closed, there's nobody there. And they were actually going through a lot in terms of not only their physical well-being, but also in terms of their mental engagement and mental well-being. So we launched a program called Landmark Suraksha, which was a program which catered to not only their physical needs. For example, if somebody in the family is going through a tough time with COVID or something, providing them the necessary resources, but also in terms of their mental well-being. So we had an emotional helpline, which was a toll-free number which they could call to tell them what is happening, what they are going through, and get all their queries addressed. Apart from that, what we did was that we trained close to around 1,500 people, and this is something that was led by the L&D team. 1,500 people trained to ensure that they call the 20,000 employees in the group at least once every week, to just check how are you doing, right? And what are you going through? What are the situation back at home, to express solidarity that we are with you. Don't worry, we are all in this together. And I think this was a program which we did at the height of the pandemic. Learning from that, of course, that has not tapered off, but we would want to continue the emotional helpline because I think there are many things that has changed, which I think we will speak about, as we go forward. But as you rightly said, the new normal is that people don't have the kind of comfort of speaking to people in the past, especially people who are in the back end offices, the corporate region. They are don't have colleagues to speak to. Relationships have become very transactional. You don't schedule a meeting unless there is a agenda to be accomplished. So it has become very transactional. So in that context, how do you actually ensure that people feel emotionally attached? The people happiness is adhered to. Those are something that we are contemplating, and the emotional helpline is something that really is something that we want to continue forward.
Thanks, Alex. I think Landmark Suraksha would be a program I think you should circulate amongst all of us, and we should kind of see what we can take away from that. And the connect is very, very critical and important. I think that's something which is what I think we all need to do with our employees. And let me next go to Smitha. Smitha from Marks and Spencer's. So Smitha, can you kind of, because today also the L&D function alone can't do everything. It needs to be actually the line managers who need to, facilitate it or, enable, the employees in terms of, making sure the well-being happens. So how does it in your organization that, okay, sorry, before I get to, this I would come back to later, Smitha, but now before that, you can tell me what your organization actually kind of has been doing on the well-being front. And this question I had for you, I'll ask you next after. Yeah, over to you, Smitha, to tell us about what you do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Venkat. And I think I will take off from what Alex also very rightly said. I think retail as an industry did not really have, doesn't have that much of a privilege of hybrid working. But I think our store colleagues, I think that was doing the rounds of saying not only, not all heroes wear capes. So I think for us also, from a retail standpoint, as an organization, like you rightly said, well-being is in various forms of physical, mental, financial, and psychological well-being. So yes, during the peak of the pandemic, we did a lot of engagement, etc. But now with the new norm of stores coming in and people working, we continue to give enhanced benefits that we started during that time, and those continue to remain. So when we look at well-being, I think if I have to go back to even Maslow's to say, okay, safety, security, and well-being of my families is the most important thing for me as an individual before I come to work. So we made sure that our benefits are extended to not just our employees, but even to their extended families. So then we know that once they are safe, then I'm there at work. So safety within the workplace in terms of what kind of norms we have, etc. Additionally, some of the other things that we also did was the whole aspect around social connect and mental health, and the fact that that awareness and the safety around which that people were free to talk about it. And it was not only done through workshops or employee assistance programs, but it was also done through very regular connects with our leadership teams, interactions that were more frequent. And I think the whole mental aspect of how frequently can we as an organization keep communication open with our frontliners? What is happening in the business? How are we recognizing our people? So people were very connected to what was happening in the larger side of the business side, which gave them the confidence and the trust to say, okay, we are in good hands, and therefore we are able to kind of contribute and engage with our people. So I think that was one side. Another very big trend that we saw the pandemic have was around women, and how because of the household needs that we started to see a lot more attrition. So we were able to extend certain benefits, especially for only expectant and new mothers, where we said that, you all can have an extended career leave for them, for example, to make sure that you are able to take care. We don't want you to leave. We understand the health requirements, etc. So that was another benefit that we were able to give to people with comorbidities, and especially women in the well-being space. And I think the freedom in terms of how we can continuously and openly speak about empathy, emotional intelligence, the fact that you need to be there for your people and it's okay for someone to feel not okay. I think we made conversations around these the norm by just everybody talking about it. So that was just an idea of what we have done at Marks and Spencer.
Great. I think again, it's about connect, the communication, the leadership, speaking to them. And I think that's critical. And very interesting to note that, on inclusion about women and, expectant mothers. And, that's, I think, a very good initiative. And I'm sure they must have been very appreciative of it and a great learning. Thanks, Smitha. So can we have Pearline? Pearline comes from, the hotel industry. And many of you would have heard of, because when we are here in the south, the Thalappakatti is quite famous as, the paradise biryani of Hyderabad. So maybe, yes, I mean, the challenges in your restaurants during this time, and what is it that you did for the employee well-being? Can you share with us, Pearline? I think you're muted, yeah.
You're on mute, yeah.
So to begin with, we have 90 restaurants across the country, with five internationally. I mean, in US, Dubai, Singapore, as well as Lanka. And we have 2,000 employees with an attrition rate of 8%, with a revenue that we generate of 400 CR annually. Considering this, to just give you a background of what we do, we are a mass dining biryani brand. So we have a workforce of different levels coming from tier 3 cities with different skill sets as well. So when the pandemic, of course, was an outburst, then we realized the need, and we, with empathy as a core value, we ensured that our CEO has an all-hands meet with all the team members and all employees, and reached out to each one and emphasized on the importance of self-help and the well-being of their loved ones, and also specify and ensure practices of safety were followed while we serve, at the same time while we do our job. So being a waiter or a captain, or being the housekeeping, or being the man who does the takeaway order, where they risk their lives and come on to the front to serve all our guests. So our CEO ensured and reinstated safety. We didn't stop at that. In fact, we looked at well-being not only at the employee level, but also their loved ones. We largened the base, and we made a video message and sent across to all their loved ones, like, whose son, brother, or even husbands come to work and who risk their lives. And we told them they were in their safe hands. So we ensured that we told them that we're all in it together, and our safe practices will, and our safety measures will help their loved ones be safe, and how we practice the safety and live our values through these measures. That was one thing, and we circulated those videos across everybody and to bring in the trust levels and feel that they're in the right hands. Besides that, we also started to track the positive rates because it was continuous. Why we just did that, we tied up with hotels and hospitals where people, the employees as well as their loved ones, could be admitted, and we took care of the entire facility till they got COVID negative. In fact, we had insurances as well, which was comprehensive of the COVID thing, and with the coverage that we extended to them. Besides, we also had loss of life in the forefront. We as a company ensured that the left ones, that is the child or the wife, is offered the job. And we have we have 3 cases in Dindigul that as we speak that this happened to. So we were with the loved ones even while we had people who died unfortunately out of the thing. So yeah, and as an anticipatory thing, we realized that these are people who get 10,000 salaries, and they run out of money. They have to send money at home, and the financial stress was peak. So we, as L&D as well as a team, decided to help them understand how to use their salary and where financial stress can be, reduced, and how effectively they can manage their money in crisis such as this. We didn't stop at that alone. We also had a safety net for them in terms of people who have already gotten into crisis where, I don't know what to do next. We had a board, a committee where we had like a trust where a certain amount was deposited, and people who were under crisis, we took it over and we started, helping them in dealing with the situation so that they didn't have further psychological and stressful situations in their life. So yeah, so I think in a nutshell, in this the service sector, we ensured that all our team members were with us as we speak, and it's the same even through this COVID phase. And we are in it together while we help them in all their crises. And yeah, that's how we did.
Yeah, I think hotels and restaurants, were closed for the longest. Even retail stores opened up much earlier. And, these people were jobless, and, there could have been a lot of difficulty, financial difficulties.
Yeah. But we also, to make a mention, we also ensured that nobody loses job. I mean, we did a model where, we pay as they work and things like that. And we had certain allowances given and all taken care of despite of the magnitude. And we'd be the most affected actually, and we had people from Nepal and everywhere coming who left everything to come to work with us. So considering all of them, we did those things that.
Yeah, clearly. So next we have Naveen. Naveen has a different problem being with Licious. His employees need to go house to house and and deliver meat to them, fish or meat, and it's not going to be easy. The contact with people and their well-being becomes very, very critical. Naveen, can we hear you what Licious has been doing in terms of for your employees during this pandemic for their well-being?
So thank you, Venkat, for this opportunity as well as Rai. And then thanks for beautiful context which you said in the beginning of the session. I think as you rightly called out, I think in e-com industry, right, especially during the first 2 waves of pandemic, there is always a dilemma in your mind. You're an essential services organization. You got to be raising to your services to the consumers who need you most, right, during this time of difficulties. At the same time, you are going through challenges of making sure that your people are safe, and everyone who is out there on the front end as well as the back end in our factories and the value chain, complete value chain, go through these struggles, and they need to go back to the family at the end of the day and questioning, am I really being helpful in the family because I don't necessarily, create a safe environment. So these are the dilemmas people, used to go through. One thing we did is, we sort of connected with each and every person. I think this pandemic has sort of tested the leadership, criterias in a big way, right? And what we thought is effective leadership in the past has got tested. I think new dimension to leadership got introduced. Empathy being the key word which we speak about more often, where leaders need to really understand the people and empathize with their problems and be available to solve them. I think the way we responded, I think key themes would be two, which would be, one would be connect and second would be care. Connect, as I mentioned, it's about knowing people, stay in touch with them more often than not, and be available for them. And I think as an organization initially, when the huge migration was happening, right, you obviously had challenges of people being available. What we did proactively at that point in time, which we thought, hindsight is a bold call, to, create a safe stay environment for people. We had put almost 1,000 people on, resorts and, hotels, just to create a sort of bio bubble when this word bio bubble didn't exist, right? I think what it did is it helped us in two ways. One, obviously, all the while we've been talking about great values of the organization. I think if you had not responded appropriately at that time with some of these bold steps which you took, wouldn't have created that sense of trust, which is so important for people to bring their discretionary efforts. I think at that point in time, it was a question of life and death for people. They didn't know if they go out, they'll be able to really be, safe. And I think if you create, a trusted environment, where people feel that, okay, this organization is there for me and this manager is there for me whenever I need. We've created something called Licious care. One motto for the team is to, just, support, irrespective of what is needed, right? So just make sure that every Licious is supported. Yeah. Whether it is hospital bed or medical support or credit line, which is required for getting the required support, oxygen cylinders, oxygen concentrators made available to the people whenever they need it, not only to them, to their families, etc. Some of these things, I think really help people to really, one, feel that, okay, we have a safety net to back us, when we need them the most. And also many other policies, I think, got evolved over a period of time. Things like unlimited sick leave, for people to feel that, okay, if I am sick, I have enablers of this sort. If my family is sick, I have a care leave which is available for me to take care of my family. I think all these, I think these are important enablers. I think if you trust the people, none of the people who make a misuse of some of these things, I guess just that, and you got to create some of this enabler, trust the people, and they will back you, when you need them the most. So a lot more things like October. So we just planned in the month of October, planned a major wellness initiatives where we said whole organization will walk, right? So we created competitions around walkathon, and we called it as a October event, where lots of people sort of participated just to create certain rhythm around getting focus around your physical and mental wellness. Initiatives like Distress Fridays, you organize a lot of those experts who come and talk about, the way to deal with your stress moments and things like that. About 10% of our people, of course, had the privilege of working out of home, but I think maximum of our people were on ground. So I think the ones who were working out of home, obviously enough enablers, virtual enablers which were created to stay connected with the organization. I think major casualty of pandemic was about building that emotional connection with the organization, which is so important, especially to the ones who have joined during this period. So we obviously dealt with it in a multifold manner, in a way that people are able to, one, have a great immersion talking to the leaders more often so that they understand the organizational context, and also on an ongoing basis, managers being able to, stay in touch with their people and have regular conversation, not only about the work, but also about general, things which matter to them to, be happy about their work. So many things. I think overall, we believe this is something which taught us a lot, and hopefully some of the new capabilities we built over a period of time will help us to create a lot more happy, environment at work in a sustainable manner in the long term. Yeah.
Great, Naveen. I think the fact is building trust. That's the most important, and I think that everything circled around that, and that's once the trust is there, they would do anything for us as an organization. So also you're talking about October. Did the Licious meet get delivered by your people walking? Or was it on there?
You never know. Yeah, you had few people walking 70,000 steps a day. We were wondering how do we get there. So with some difficulty, I
more for your corporate office.
Yeah.
Great, Naveen. Thanks. So great. So we have next Manavi. Manavi is from Tata Trent, and Tatas are known for their philanthropic way of looking after their employees, and I'm sure Tata Trent Westside would definitely kind of had something very different. Can we hear you, Manavi?
Yeah, thank you so much, and I'm very, very glad to be here. Thank you, everyone. And I've heard such amazing initiatives done by various organizations, and so I'd just like to add on to a lot of it what your organizations have done. We have also done, because well-being is not something which is new to Tata, because care, compassion is very integral to Tata value. In fact, I'd like to start off by saying that, in fact, this year's chairman's message, we, usually he sends a message every year. And one of the themes of chairman's message is health. So it's a very integral part. Last year also it was there. And so health and well-being is a very integral part of the Tata Group. What we had done is that, well-being, as in last year, when this pandemic was last year, in fact, when the pandemic was declared as a global emergency, like most organizations, we also acted very quickly to protect our workforce from the spread of the COVID. We implemented all appropriate health, hygiene, and social distancing measures to keep people safe and well. And we started with a lot of support programs, specifically to protect the physical, mental well-being of employees. So few things that I'd just like to touch upon is that we regular pulse surveys were done to understand that how employees are feeling, and then we use that data later on to develop programs for wellness for the organization. Then there were additional support which included something like enhanced sick leave, which people have said, financial assistance, adjusted hours of operation, and childcare provisions. So these things we also provided. Then we also had a tie-up with one of the employee assistance program providers, and we regularly conducted webinars, counseling services, and which we continue to do now also. And there was a lot of support and endorsement by senior leadership to reduce the stigma around seeking help through these programs. And as Pearline also mentioned, this was not only limited to the employee, but also his family, his or her family members. Then we had a medical officer who was on board to conduct regular sessions on physical health, answer questions related to COVID and post-COVID recovery. And we likewise designed various programs, not only in mental and physical health, but financial wellness and well-being also. So basically, what has happened is a pandemic-like crisis has changed the ways an employer views employee experience, and personal factors rather than external factors have taken precedence over what matters to the organization and employees. So that has become very important, and the examples that has been shared by all of you has shown the importance that the organizations have given to workplace well-being. So now I feel that workplace well-being has become very mainstream. and organizations are thinking about it. They are doing things about it, but we have to what we have to do is we have to make sure that these things are not short term. They have to become very important and become a part of the organizational life. So that is something that we are working on now. Thank you.
Very, very true, Manavi. I think it has to become part of the company's DNA now, and then it needs to become way of life. You're right. I think the plethora of activities you did, and I'm sure Tata's in their own way knows how to touch the lives of people. I think that's what Tatas are for, and I think all of them are emulating. You people started off several decades back, and I'm sure organizations are doing that now. Great, Manavi. So now let me go back to Smitha. I think I was asking about the L&D function. How does it play a role in enabling well-being from the line managers? Because today, okay, L&D alone can't do it. At the end of it, it needs to kind of percolate down. It needs to go down. How does that happen, Smitha, in your organization in Marks and Spencer?
Sure. And I think I would really call out what Naveen was also saying in terms of how the manager is, the main person who's connecting with people. So how do we, and also to what Manavi is saying, how do you sustain some of these practices that probably emerged due to necessity of the pandemic, but now is becoming more and more a part of how we are looking at the fact that these have become the norm. How do we continue to live in a world that says that care and empathy, we spoke about it pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic, it became so important that without which you could not sustain. And now how do we really sustain it? So I think since it's become the central point of it, enabling our people managers therefore becomes extremely important, because the organization and the ecosystem might be giving various benefits, various infrastructure to ensure that our employees are taken care of. But it is that one person, that individual people manager, who is there for that person here and now and for the long term. So how do we make sure that we are enabling this new skill set that is emerging and becoming so much more important than just managing performance or discipline or, taking care of employees on a day-to-day basis, to say, so therefore, I think at M&S, in addition to the, competency framework or whatever you may say, we started to talk about 4 key skills of a line manager that becomes extremely important. And these 4 skills were called strengths, which is basically understanding what are the strengths that people bring to the table on my team. Then we talked about clarity. So I think in a hybrid or a virtual or in this world, clarity in terms of what is expected, what is it that I need to do, all of those things, clarity became very, very important. How am I communicating? Praise became extremely important. Are we able to catch people doing the right things? Are we giving on-time recognition of people? Are we there for our people? Are we appreciating them? And finally, care. So we kind of talked about these 4 major pillars in terms of line manager development that kind of really set the tone of how we want to enable our people. Yes, so we did enable people, our line managers, to say this is going to be the core of how you work. Workshops we did leadership interactions, we gave a lot of conversational support, we did a peer-to-peer network, like a people manager community that was created. In fact, we saw for our stores, especially during some time, we felt that, when commutes was becoming difficult, we saw store managers talking to each other without even the organization saying that, okay, there are people who live closer to your store. For some months, can we have them work in our store? So the kind of camaraderie and that cohort, I'm not sure that's a term, but that whole aspect of camaraderie amongst the people managers to say, I don't need an L&D person to come and intervene to teach me how. There is so much experience that's lying. And I think as an L&D or a talent person, that was probably one of the most gratifying things, where we talk of learning organizations, etc. So when people themselves are able to say, okay, no, we can learn from each other, and how can we pass on that with the framework that we are giving? So I think for us to enable line managers and to continuously, even our performance philosophy shifted, I think across, like Manavi said, there are lots of things that the industry took on as best practices, to say continuous conversation. Arey bhai, okay, I have to talk once a year, twice a year, once a month. But if I have to talk more than that, what should I talk? How should I have all of these tougher conversations or good conversations? So our performance philosophy also was called being your best. So how do you kind of become more wholesome in terms of all of this, and how trust and relationships took over a lot of other things to enable this? And I think that journey still continues for us in terms of how we continuously enable our people managers, because I think that's where the rubber really hits the road to say, yeah, and as individuals, we also experience the organization through the line manager. So I think if we are able to manage that and they are able to become that true cultural ambassadors, I think as an organization, we would have won a large battle in terms of well-being as well. So that's what we are doing.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Great, Smitha. I think becoming part of the competency framework and getting into all these really talk in terms of how you need to percolate it down, because at the end of the day, it's just boardroom talks won't help. It needs to go down there. So that's what it becomes. Great, Smitha. So let me go to Alex now. Alex, empathy, everybody's talking about it during these times. So as a leadership skill, how do you see this in the context of well-being in a hybrid work environment? Empathy.
Yeah, thanks, Venkat. I think even before the new normal, if you would have asked me, I would have said the number one leadership competency would be empathy. Okay. And, in my first MBA class, way back in 97, my professor told me, if you can learn empathy, you don't need MBA. So that's something that was ingrained in me. And I think there is something far more important. Empathy has become far more important in the new normal. And I have 5 reasons for it. Number one, I think all of us know that at least in our recent 50-year history, there has never been a more uncertain and a more stressful situation. And everybody is going through it. Not only the team member, but the bosses are also going through this. Owners of companies are also going through this because there is so much uncertainty. And it requires empathy from all sides to understand what each other is going through. The second is that the pressures and demands at work are more than ever before. And I quote what Ruchir Sharma, who is an investor who was on NDTV recently, said that as per his research, people are putting 18% more time every day. If they were working, say, 8 hours, they are working 1.5 hours more, but productivity has actually dipped, which means, the managers think that, okay, the output is not coming, but people are actually working harder than they were in the past. So pressures and demands at work, at the same time, no proper support system because of nuclear families, people moving from their base locations. There's no support system at home to take care of, say, parents, aged parents, or children, with schools being closed. All this, is the new normal which we are going through. The third thing is people have been through a lot of health challenges. We all know someone we have lost somebody, or, who we know, or we know someone who has gone through a lot of pain in the recent past. The third aspect is, as I was indicating earlier, is that meetings have become very transactional. I won't schedule a meeting unless I have an agenda. Whereas if I was working in a office, I would have to meet somebody who I would have otherwise not met in the coffee shop or in the corridor, spoken about their well-being, which is not happening. So all said and done, cribbing is something which is an important part of corporate life. There's no opportunity to crib, right, about your boss, about the situation, about what is happening. So this is a aspect of venting out. So the stress factors are actually increased, but the avenues to actually vent out stress is not there. And lastly, everything has to be planned. Nothing happens impromptu. Even if I have to speak to somebody, it has to be planned. Is he available? I can't walk into the floor and say, can I have a minute with you? So these are some things of the new normal where we are not able to see each other. We are not able to see. We talk about the importance of body language in understanding each other. We are not able to even see the person. So in this kind of a context and this productivity paradox where everybody is working harder, but the productivity doesn't seem to be coming. And there's also this article which I read on HBR, which says, which is by Joseph Grenny, which says the mistrust in a virtual environment is 2.5 times more. That if it's far more difficult to build trust through a virtual environment, and also addressing a concern takes 5 to 10 times longer. So if you couple up all these issues, there's a lot of empathy that is required, not only from the bosses towards the team member, but also from the team member to understand what the boss is going through. So I think the single largest focus should be on building empathy as a skill, not only at a leadership level, but across the organization, to understand what the person is going through, right? Are they living alone? Do they have a ecosystem which supports them? Do they prefer to work? Can they split their work? That early morning before my kids wake up, maybe I can complete a part of my work from 5 to 9, take a break from 9 to 12 and come back. So I think organizations have to be more flexible. I think organizations are more willing, but it's more about the leaders who have to be more willing to actually adjust to the new normal. And therefore, I think the L&D teams, if they have to focus on one aspect in the next few months, it should be about how to build empathy in the organization.
Yeah, very, very well said, Alex. Because I'm sure, you need to have empathy to understand empathy. You started off. That's critical. But then the scripting session is a good, thought process. Now, like, your skip level meetings and town halls, I think maybe we should introduce scripting sessions so people kind of all the negativity comes out, and then that trust is built, virtually. I think it's a nice thought. I think maybe on a lighter side. Great, very, very great insights, Alex. Now, can we go to Pearline? Pearline, I always wonder, I used to wonder how, people working in a hotel industry, in a restaurant, how is it possible to kind of, make sure whatever initiatives you want, be it on the L&D or on HR or whatever, how do you actually kind of, have that impact? How do you create that impact? And because today well-being there becomes very critical, because that means that their physical well-being will talk about also the well-being of the customer who comes and eats, right? I think there's a lot related to that. Given that, what are your thoughts, Pearline? Would you like to add something more?
See, in terms of staff, in terms of their well-being, we also have teams that are deployed across the regions, where we meet the team members and talk about their grievances or talk about troubles that they're going through while during these COVID phases. So we scatter it amongst each one of us and we talk to them. There's more people connect that's happening. So it's more psychological, I feel, in terms of on the floor. How do we ensure their well-being? First is to let's keep letting them know that they're being taken care of and we are in constant conversation. Of course, and then these grievances like money and other things and illnesses, all those kind of things do come up, and how we ensure that they're being addressed. Sometimes those are the small things that make a big difference in terms of in that service aspects. So it's something as simple as that.
How do you build trust with them? That being L&D, I'm sure you must have a lot of programs on that count, right?
Yeah, in terms of we have this why program and why are we doing what we're doing and how do we want to build on certain things, and in terms of the fact that we are recognizing them for going the extra mile and letting them know that we are around and giving them facilities and provisions helps us build trust with them, and in constant connection and letting them know that they're doing an awesome job and engaging their family in the entire well-being program that we have. So helps them believe that they are in the right place, and trust is the key element that is engaging both us as well, the company as well as the team members down there, despite of the distances that are there. Yeah. And I think WhatsApp works.
Oh yeah, I think.
Yeah, so we do that. We talk like Alex just said, without an agenda. So these are the times where, without an agenda really works. And sometimes it's just a being to the other beings, which otherwise they wouldn't have reached out. And I see when communication is as simple and clear, it goes miles, and trust is built slowly when it's consistently done. Yeah, and not the fact that we don't have, people are still around and long serving. So that in itself is very heartening and encouraging.
Great.
working. So
it's not a very easy job for you, I'm sure.
It's constant, okay. And it's a culture. It's a culture, and everybody should live that. Not just, it starts from every exchange of words, not just up to down, horizontal as well. Everybody. So can't say we aced it, but yeah, we're getting there, and we're learning. So.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure that's what we're all doing, and especially in an industry like yours, it becomes even more important. So maybe my next questions to Manavi, how can we integrate the well-being in the flow of work to make it more sustainable, Manavi? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so right now, if you see, we've done a phenomenal job of addressing concerns of employees, both in the first, second, and now the third wave. So well-being, we all have discussed, has become quite a critical area. It has become a priority, and people have focused on that. What happens after the pandemic? There will be a time, I'm sure, when all this thing is over. What happens to these wellness initiatives? There have been research which there was a research which I came across, which has claimed that employees are looking for workplaces that address mental, social, and physical well-being. Okay, so in this discussion on Great Resignation, one of the things that has come out is that people are looking for organizations where all these things are taken seriously. And because the long-lasting work from home has taken a very heavy toll on social and mental toll on people are also looking at the well-being gains that they have enjoyed. They want this to be taken forward in the long term. So organizations have to focus on well-being. So this is not something that was like a short-term measure. And because it was pandemic, we attended to your mental, physical, emotional well-being. And now if everything is over, things are back to normal. So this is a good data point. There's a lot of research which has been done. And in fact, there was a Deloitte Human Capital Survey report 2021, which has which mentioned that integrating well-being in the flow of work is going to be a vital aspect in a post-pandemic world for most organizations. So this is a very critical thing which all of us, because we all have taken initiatives, well-being initiatives for our employees, we have to think that what is the next step. So is it, instead of making it a check the box program, are we doing something which is more sustainable? So, there are so many things which, some things that I can think about which we can, we can do. Few things that few organizations have been doing, and we can also, we can have a discussion and we can see. One of the things is that, well-being being taken seriously as a theme or a value in the organization. Like I told you that our chairman has mentioned that health and well-being is one of the themes for 2022. So that is being there. That's something which is going to be seriously taken by the organization. Some organizations, again, research shows that they have, added well-being goals in their performance reviews. So, rewarding employees who model behaviors related to well-being, recognize those employees who are taking ownership of well-being. So those things, these are few things which it could be a beginning or a, baby steps towards making well-being as a part of the organization. So one is, making it as a part of our process reviews. Second is support from senior leadership, where, open dialogue, transparency is very critical. And Alex has, already spoken a lot on this. So I would not, add more. So, it is very important that leadership is, talking about well-being and makes it a priority and models self-care. So that is very, very important. Then third is that, we all have done surveys and collected data during the pandemic. Like in my organization, we did a lot of surveys, and I'm sure. So you look into that data. Most of the time, you can actually make sense of data, and you can see and design well-being programs. And, you can take cues from the data that how do we use this data to design initiatives for the organization? Are you listening to what the employees are trying to tell you? So these are few things that we can do to make learning, or to make well-being as a part of the organization and well-being in the flow of work.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, these definitely are required, and leadership, I think their blessings are the most critical at the end of the day. That's very important. Great. I mean, so how much more time do we have, Lawrence? I mean, because that we started the session late, because I had a question. Lawrence or Meenakshi there? I mean, just to tell us a time check.
Yes, sir. Just balance 5 minutes to go.
5 minutes? Okay.
Yes,
so what
we do have audience questions. Sorry, sir. We do have audience questions on the chat box. If you could just make a note of them.
So I'm not able to. Anybody could see the questions on the chat box? I have a problem with my. Can
I read out?
Yeah, Lawrence. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. The first question is, how does one determine whether the new work environment is conducive or detrimental to well-being?
Who wants to take this?
I would perhaps add, jury is still out.
Yeah, Naveen.
That is a situation we are in. I think instead of, I think we don't know, right, how it will play out and long-term impact of some of these, changes in our lives. There are some pros and there are some cons, but I think important thing is how do we navigate some of these challenges in a way that, we are able to manage both work as well as life. The word work-life balance has found a new meaning, I would assume. It's more about integration and making sure that we are able to, live both the purposes in a way that, we enjoy both the journey, right? So that's very important for all of us to note, and organizations are responding to it. I think these are important part of People Charter. They are no more a lip service, agenda. These are the ones which will make it or break it from the perspective of how organizations function, deliver, the superior results by taking care of people. So people have become center of organizational agenda, I would say. I think that is something which will take us, long way in terms of moving the needle on people experience and delivering value to the overall, environment which you're part of. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, Naveen. So, Lawrence, are there any more questions?
Yeah, one last question. How can we show a case of business benefits from employee wellness initiatives? I repeat, how can we show a case of business benefits from employee wellness initiatives?
Show case of business benefit from wellness? I'm not sure. It's a very, very tough question. I think who wants to take this? I mean, I don't think anybody would like to do that.
I can try to attempt.
Yeah, Alex, please.
I think, rather than looking at employee, wellness as a tool to get benefits, I think it is important that to understand that it is the basic hygiene that is required. If an employee, let's look at each one of us. If an employee doesn't feel cared for, there is no reason why the employee should care about what is important to the company. I think it's a mutual, two-way path that, I know that this company cares for me, the company cares for my well-being, my physical well-being, they're really invested and interested in me. Only then you can expect that kind of commitment that I will do whatever it takes to ensure that this company is successful and I'm delivering what I am, expected to deliver. I think it's a two-way street, and there are n number of articles on engagement, how engagement and productivity go hand in hand. So I don't think we need to reestablish that again. But the fact is, employee well-being is a basic aspect. I think there is no need to even prove a benefit out of it. It is basic hygiene, and that's something that all employees or prospective employees are coming to expect. If there are companies who don't focus on it, I think eventually they lose out to the other ones who do.
Anybody else? Manavi, you want to add something to that?
I think I completely agree with what Alex has said. And, these are too early days for this initiative. I think, there will be a way, because, any program, any intervention, we will have business benefits, but these are too early days to, look into that. We should see it as a hygiene factor. And, the reason has been very clearly explained by Alex.
I only hope the question was not from a business leader.
So Venkat, maybe just to add,
please, Smitha.
Just like Manavi and Alex are saying, it's become a hygiene, and the fact that today people are expecting it is also starting to be seen where there is trust. I think Naveen also touched upon the point of trust. The kind of innovation that people are coming up with different ways of solving customer solutions. There are various things that are happening because that trust and the fact that the organizations are making wellness a large part of their, not just a people charter, but a business charter. The fact that there is sponsorship coming from the top. I just like the fact that you said how Tata's was synonymous to something now is going to become synonymous to probably everybody, because it's going to be a given. So I think the fact innovation that's thriving, that productivity is happening, that people want to contribute, and that commitment are itself business cases to say that, if you're not going to give this, then it's not going to translate to anything. So hygiene, but it's starting to show the fact that great resignation, how are we controlling attrition, where is it that people want to stay? So these are all clear business cases that are coming to say that if you're not going to have it, people are not, it's a very strong part of an employee value proposition that people are looking for today. So I think...
in fact, I also wanted to add, we come from the service thing. It's very clear that when a captain or a waiter serves with happiness, the guest is also happy. And it's a very dulce connect. And how do we gauge it? Our NPS scores, and you'll have people coming in more frequently. If the people connect, somebody's going to come, hey, this guy is there. And it's happiness radiates happiness. And eventually that's the output of well-being. So happy people serve better and guests become happy, and that's so contagious.
Great.
I think
Naveen, good, Pearline. I think it's a good point. NPS is what we look at, and if that is relating, it's correlation is there, it's good. So Naveen, you want to add something? I think.
No, I think I completely agree with what has been told. I guess if somebody wants a business case, just don't do this for some time. You will know the business case. Great resignation is a theme which is running, and that's primarily because things are not being taken care, and Gen Zs don't care whether they have a job or not. If they don't like the environment, if you don't take care of a few things which according to them is basic, perhaps you will lose out to the ones who do it well.
Yeah, very true, very true. Great. So I think a lovely session. Thank you, panelists. You made it so interesting. We get back. I'm sure the participants would have loved this session, and employee well-being becomes very critical for organizations, and it's going to be part of life in our daily lives in the company. So thank you, panelists, and thank you, RAI.
Thank you.
Thank you.